Hurricane season is upon us, and if you live on the eastern part of the United States, particularly in the south between Virginia and Florida, then hopefully you've been paying attention to the news and the weather, because it looks like we're about to get lit up with one of the worst hurricanes in modern recorded history. We're preparing around here. We'll show you some of the stuff we're doing and some of the stuff you can be doing too to get ready for the big one.
We continue to track an even stronger Hurricane Florence. Winds now up to 130 miles an hour. That makes this a Category 4 storm, most likely with a landfall along the North Carolina coastline. Before it does that, we expect this to continue to strengthen up to around 150 mile an hour winds, putting this just shy of Category 5 hurricane strength. Models in much better agreement about a likely landfall along the North Carolina coastline. This is not only going to be a storm surge event and a wind event, but an inland flooding event, which could likely be the most devastating of this as it moves into higher elevations. That's where it's going to start to dump over a foot of rain in some cases, as much as 20 inches before this storm moves out.
Is this a life-threatening storm?
Yes, ma'am, it is. It's not a question of if Florence is going to impact the Carolinas and Virginia. It's going to, and it's going to be a devastating storm. We're looking at not only coastal impacts from Cat 4 storm surge and high winds making landfall, but as this system comes inland, it's projected to stall out, which means copious amounts of rainfall through the Carolinas into Virginia, as well as many of the mid-Atlantic states. So we're positioning from basically South Carolina to Delaware as we speak to be able to support our state partners. The question is, how much more rainfall can these rivers handle? And right now you're seeing forecast of 30 inches or greater. I'm truly worried about North Carolina, Virginia, particularly the central and western portions of those states that haven't seen this type of rainfall in a long time. We depend on people being prepared, and we don't have a real culture of preparedness in this country that we got to work on. Yeah, look, this is a Cat 4 storm, potentially a Cat 5. At FEMA, we always plan for one category higher. This is nothing to play with. You're going to see massive amounts of storm surge along the coast, which is the primary driver of evacuations. And then this system is going to come in and cause devastating inland floods statewide across South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia.
So you may be asking yourselves, what makes us the experts on hurricane preparedness? Well, we're not, and we don't pretend to be. But we are lifelong preppers, and we have lived through several emergency situations that have given us the experience to know how to prepare for situations like these. One being, I was down in Jacksonville, Florida during one of the fourth biggest evacuations during Hurricane Floyd in 1999. I did not evacuate. I was down there during their hurricane when the hurricane hit. Did have about 155 mile per hour winds. And also, some of you guys have watched our video on a real SHTF story where I was in Nepal during the 7.8 magnitude earthquake. So if you guys want to check that out, I can leave a link to that video. So we're getting ready, and I'm going to show you guys what we're doing around here and what you guys can be doing at home.
Last year, Hurricane Maria wiped out Puerto Rico and a lot of the Caribbean islands, the effects of which they're still feeling today with limited power and supply lines. Hurricanes are bad and they're nothing to mess with. So let's talk about some of the damage and some of the risks that you can expect. Torrential rain causes flooding, mostly flash flooding, and that causes you not to be able to drive in a lot of places. It also causes water contamination in areas where if you're getting your fresh water source from a spring, water could get flooded in there and just kind of contaminate your situation. So flash flooding is bad, torrential rain is bad, especially when it comes down all at once. High winds, 150 mile an hour winds. Flying projectiles, downed trees, down cell towers, down power lines. Those are all bad things. When the power goes out, that's when kind of things get bad, because it can be out for 2 weeks or more. I mean, look at Puerto Rico. They're still without power in a lot of places. When the power goes out, that means that doesn't necessarily just affect you and your house. It affects your entire area. With the ATMs and the credit card networks can be down. The gas station, gas pumps, even if they do have fuel, they run on electricity, so you're not going to be able to get gas. These are things to think about and plan ahead for. When everything stops, you need to have all your stuff in order.
All right, so let's talk about some things that you can start doing 2 to 5 days in advance before a hurricane's coming, and that means right now. The first thing is secure all your projectiles, things such as lawn chairs. You can take these and put these away, or if you're in an area where you're not expected to get too high winds, you can just simply tip them over like this, which will prevent them from taking off across your yard. Another thing, pay your bills, especially your insurance premiums. Make sure everything is caught up because you could be without power for up to 2 weeks. You don't want to incur any late fees or have any issues with insurance due to unpaid premiums. If you're in a low-lying area or if you have a basement and it's prone to flooding, make sure you take any of those items or important items that are on your ground level or in your basement floor, put them on a higher shelf or put them on the second floor. That'll prevent those items from getting damaged. If you live on the coast or in an area where you think you might get a lot of wind damage, you probably already know this, but boarding up your windows is one way to prevent the glass from breaking. Another way is to tape up your windows. Now, a lot of people do this incorrectly. They'll put a big giant X in the middle of the window and they think that this is to strengthen the glass. That's not true. Actually, taping your windows goes back to World War II when bombs would explode and the force from the explosions would take shards of glass and explode them into the house. The tape actually prevents the glass from, holds the glass together and prevents larger shards from getting into your house. Taping them in a diamond pattern like this will help prevent that. Now's the time to top off your gas. Make sure you get to those gas stations before they run out of fuel or before the power is out and the gas pumps don't work anymore. Fill up your vehicles. Fill up any gas cans that you have laying around your house for any kind of items such as your generator or even a chainsaw. Make sure all those are topped off. If your house runs on propane, make sure that their propane tanks are full, especially if you have a gas grill. You want to make sure that you have that propane tank filled as well. Make sure there are no chickens in your truck. Really? Fill up your gas. Now's the time to take out cash. If the power goes out, that means no ATMs, no credit card networks. If you need to buy something from a store, such as a gas station or something like that, you will not be able to purchase anything without having cash on hand. So make sure you have enough cash on hand to get you where you need to go. Have at least 2 weeks worth of food and water ready to go. Keep in mind that your refrigerator could go out. You need to have non-perishable, nutrient-dense food to get you through the next 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks? Because if transportation is interrupted, your grocery stores, which are on a 3-day supply, 3-day turnaround, are not going to be stocked. You're going to need to be able to have food ready, food that you can cook and heat up very easily at your house. If you don't know how to can, I'm going to leave a link to our canning video. That's something that you can learn to do for a future hurricane. But for right now, go to your grocery store, start stocking up on 2 weeks of food and water, and don't forget about pets and livestock. Now's the time to fill your prescriptions. Make sure you have at least 2 weeks of prescriptions on hand. A lot of times insurance company won't let you fill your prescriptions until they're 1 week within the due date, but in the case of an emergency, they will make allowances. So go talk to your pharmacist to see if you can get those prescriptions filled. If you have medication that requires refrigeration, make sure that you have a cooler ready to go and some sort of ice packs that you can use to keep that medication cool. Have first aid supplies on hand. Just keep in mind that if there are transportation issues, that could prevent an ambulance from getting to your house. Make sure that you have stuff for first aid, injuries from flying projectiles. You could become injured during the hurricane, or you could have some sort of medical emergency. Make sure you're able to take care of it to the best of your ability at your house. If you have a gas chainsaw, now's the time to get it gassed up, oiled, sharpened, and ready to go. Put it in the back of your pickup truck so that you are ready to go in case there are any downed trees or limbs crossing your road. And if you need some neighbors that need help, maybe you need to get to an emergency facility and there are trees over the road, you can use this to clear a path. If you don't have a gas chainsaw, and you have an electric one, make sure that you have your batteries fully charged. If you don't have a chainsaw, you might want to consider getting one, even if it's one of these little electric ones. They're actually quite powerful, and they do a pretty good job of cutting up tree limbs. If you don't have one already, consider putting together a bug out bag for each family member. A bug out bag is a 3-day emergency pack that will contain items such as clothing and food, warmth, a way of starting a fire, medical supplies, maps, cash, anything that you can think of that would get you through 3 days without having to go to a store. So consider putting one of these together. There are a ton of resources online for what to put in your bug out bag, but really sitting down and thinking about what could get you through a 3-day emergency, that's what's going to go in your bag. Now's the time to dig out all of your flashlights and lanterns. Make sure that they are easily accessible and everything is charged. If you have a generator, now's the time to make sure that it is in good working order and that you have at least enough gas to get you through 3 days, if not 2 weeks. If you don't have a generator, now's the time to go buy one because they will be running out in the stores. During a hurricane, there's a very high possibility that communication could be out. 2 very important items that we think everyone should have is an emergency radio. This is a solar powered and a crank radio. And also walkie-talkies. Walkie-talkies, if you need to, say if you're in separate vehicles, you need to communicate with each other, or if one person needs to go to someone else's house or give a walkie to a neighbor, that's a way for you to communicate with that person. If your cell phone towers are out or your cell phones are out, you don't have the ability to charge your cell phones. And also in understanding what's going on with the weather, what's going on with emergency responses, you can hear about that through an emergency radio. So try and get these items if you can. Something that most people don't think about is having clean laundry. Right now is the time to make sure that every family member has at least 3 days worth of clothing and clean blankets. Trust me, if you have a power outage, you're not able to run your washing machine, you're not able to go to a laundromat, or you don't have the ability to pump water, you're going to want to make sure you have clean laundry. Now's the time to start thinking about how you're going to cook food and boil water in the case of a power outage, especially if you do not have a gas range. One thing that a lot of people don't think about is their grill. A grill can be used as both a cooking surface, it could be used as an oven, you can bake with the lid closed, and it can be used to boil water. Make sure you have your propane tanks filled. Another thing is the EcoZoom Versa. We did this in our off-grid, we use these in our off-grid cooking series. This is a rocket stove type unit where you can cook and boil water on it. It requires wood. If you are using something like this, make sure that you have a good fuel supply, a dry fuel supply ready to go. Now is not the time to be buying perishable foods. Now is the time to be eating those perishable foods. There's nothing worse than food wastage. So 2 to 5 days before a hurricane, now's the time to start cooking all that stuff up in your freezer. Now's also the time to be filling up jugs of water in your freezer. This will help extend the life of your refrigerator and freezer time. And also if you have perishable medical supplies, it can help keep those cooler longer. All right, so some things that you can do the night before the hurricane hits. One is fill up all your tubs and sinks with water. This will help provide you with an emergency supply of water, and also something that a lot of people don't think about is sanitation and flushing their toilets. This will enable you to have water to flush your toilets with. Another thing to do the night before a hurricane is if you think you're going to get hit, is make sure you turn off all of your propane to the house, all of your gas to the house. That way, if there is a line that is severed, any kind of sparks or anything could cause a devastating explosion. So if you think you're going to get hit, make sure you take care of those. Finally, for those looking to be really prepared, make sure that you have some sort of defense weapon. Looting is real, people. I've lived through it. I've seen it.
Okay, a few warnings and things to be aware of. Don't drive during a hurricane, especially over bridges. You'll get blown over and into the water, and that's bad news. Don't drive across flooded waters or raging water. It's going to take you into the next county. Just be smart about those kinds of things. Be aware of downed power lines. Even if they're not sparking, they're probably hot and they'll bite you, so stay away from those. And water. Be able and prepared to boil and filter drinking water, even if you're on municipal water, especially if you're on municipal water. Or well water. Be ready to boil and filter your water until you get the all clear, because you don't know if or where it may be contaminated.
All right, so that about wraps it up. Those are some things that we're doing around here to prepare for the hurricane, and also some things that we think you might want to take into consideration in preparation for hurricane season. Just remember, this is only the start of hurricane season. It's going to continue through probably the end of October, if not November, and then it comes again around next year. If you guys are looking to prepare for the next hurricane or future hurricanes, one really good thing that you can start doing is learning how to can. I do have a Canning 101 video and a bunch of videos on how to can things such as meat. Canning will help you preserve your food. It'll eliminate all the issues with freezers and wastage. If your freezer does go out, you can always can all the food that's in there. So it's really a good thing to learn how to can. Another thing is to start a 3-week prepper pantry and have that ready to go at all times, not just for hurricane season. If you guys want to know how to do that, I have a step-by-step tutorial on how to start a 3-week prepper pantry. All right, I hope that you guys are all safe out there. Just remember, if you guys have elders in your neighborhood, please check on them. Make sure everybody's okay if you have the ability to do so. And hopefully we'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks for watching.